All right, so let's take a look at some information related to cases for the remote side of things. One of my favorites is when something's over, it's over. It's bye. All right, we'll see you later. And then I can immediately get in on to the next thing. Like if I'm having a meeting, I can immediately go into, okay, let me break these notes down. Let me look at what the action items are. Maybe there were some immediate, like, oh, I need to get this out versus like, the meeting's over. Somebody starts talking or telling a story about something. You don't want to be rude, or it's like, oh, hey, you start walking back to your desk. Somebody stops you to ask you something.
Well, don't you think with AI, we can just run the AI agent during the meeting? So it will have all of the notes, it'll have everything recorded, and it'll add the task to your task list because it'll be integrated with Microsoft Office. And so you don't have to worry about them. It makes the case easier for in person, right? Then you'd have time for socializing, Ken.
Yeah, and an example of the definition type thing we were talking about at the opening. Like when I say notes, like for me, it's really a processing time. It's more of a processing time
Mm.
than necessarily like writing the notes. Like because I was probably jotting things down during the session. Like this is so to me, it's more of a organization processing you know, time than it is like actually writing out. Like I'm not writing a report per se.
You're just trying to understand and take information in. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, maybe saying some things to myself that I didn't say in the recording that I just want to keep private that wouldn't have been appropriate.
So you're saying as soon as the meeting ends, you can go scream into a pillow and then get all your.
I'm remote, and usually nobody's here, so I don't even have to scream into a pillow anymore. I can just full on just go horror show in here.
Then that ties into our second point of developing habits, routine. If you need to have the scream before you do the processing or processing then scream, and best practices to optimize your workday and increase your motivation. I don't remember where I heard this, but it was effort plus completion equals motivation. Because some people are like, oh, you just need to like in your mind, you make up that you're motivated. But really, it's when you complete little tasks, you get this little dopamine hit. So for me, that's the part I like to focus on. And being remote does make it easier for me. And as I mentioned, being an introvert, then I'm not expending so much energy to chit chat with people or to put toward the social aspect because I can do that, but then I have to have the recovery time of having some time by myself to get back into my thinking or my work, right? Of that when the meeting's over or whatever's going on remotely, then you can just get back into your flow very easily. And the other thing that's starting to bubble up again, I've noticed, I don't know if it's popped into any of your feeds, is again the single tasking. More studies are coming out about how our phones are breaking our brain and the myth of the multitasking, that it really is to be able to do one thing that you can focus on, go to the other. And if you think you're doing multiple things at once, then you're really just switching very quickly. And it takes 20 to 30 minutes to get back into something if you're deeply thinking about it.
I mean, I don't think you could argue for the most part that when you're working remotely, you generally have more control over things, and especially if you're self-disciplined too. Like you said, like I can also go down a bunch of rabbit holes because nobody's here telling me what to do, right? But I can be self-disciplined and be like, okay, I need to focus on this. Let me turn the phone off or put the phone on silent. Let me mute my email. Let me focus in on this project. I know nobody's going to come knocking on the door. I can be like, I can even, I can really be disciplined too and be like, okay, I only want to spend 30 minutes on this. I could set a timer and be like, okay, heads down, let me focus on this for 30 minutes. Where if you're in an office, if you're in an office building, especially if you don't have your own private office, that can be very, very difficult.
When the Pomodoro technique became popular, had the little tomato timer and you would set it for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. I tried to do that when I worked in person. I think I tried it for a week. I never got through one full 25 minutes and you were supposed to get 8 of them a day. Never could get through even one without an interruption, so I gave it up.
Roxanne, I hate to bother you, but hey, do you have a minute? Do you have just a minute? 20
Um,
minutes, 20 minutes later.
Most of the time it came with, oh, I just have a quick question. The question might be quick, but the answer took 40 minutes. What about the limited opportunities, gossip, conflict, negative interactions? There less of that in remote or more opportunities?
Yeah, I would say it's easier to stay out of the cesspool when you're remote because you have more control over what you want to let in and what you don't. Like if you're in the office and like some dude comes up and just starts saying stuff, I mean, it's hard to just be like, I'm in the middle of something here. It's like, oh, whoa, somebody has a case of the Mondays. It's like, no, like, I didn't want to hear this, to be honest with you. Like when you're remote, that stuff can still kind of seep in, but you can choose to engage with it or not. You can choose to engage with it in person too, but you're kind of held hostage to a certain degree, and you usually have to say something or do something. It's just not going to go away.
I could see situations where even remotely, and people could ping you directly or hijack you into a video chat, then it turns into a gossip kind of a venting session, but it's really just complaining and complaining. So I think the people are going to be there, but I do agree that, especially if it comes through an asynchronous means where you can just ignore it, you can just leave it on red and not interact with it, a little more choice in that.
Yeah, like you're walking out to the parking lot at the end of the day, and then somebody just kind of pins you on something. It's hard to be like, and I know you could lie and make it, I always feel weird about, even though it's like, what's it matter? Does it really matter to tell this person a white lie to get out of here? I don't know, but it's just like, I don't want to, I don't want to be that way either. Especially like if somebody's telling you something that you feel like, well, maybe, in their situation, they don't have anybody to talk to and they need to, I get to be the lucky person to hear this for the next 45 minutes. I mean, I have a situation where I have a friend who likes to tell stories, and man, I mean, sometimes, and I don't know if he sees the hints and just chooses to ignore them, but you slowly inch to your vehicle and you unlock it, you start it up, and sometimes it just, yeah, like sometimes I feel like I think I could drive away and like he would just be running next to my vehicle, like continuing the story. With remote, it's like, all right, great seeing everybody, Worst case scenario, maybe you do the little white lie thing, be like, I'm having trouble. My internet connect click.
Wait a minute. So the little white lie is okay in remote, but not in person. I'm finding a
I
little,
didn't say it was okay, but
you're,
maybe it's a little easier to do.
but it's still a white lie. Still, I mean, a lie is a lie.
Now, we had a session where we talked a little bit about this too, and I feel like we've kind of inferred it as we've talked. Is in remote work too, you can set up your space for how you like to work. Maybe you like a little soft music in the background. You don't have to necessarily have the earbuds on all the time. Maybe you can be near a window to get some natural light. Uh, you can have it smell the way you want it to smell and not be like, what is that?
Every one of those have been conflict inducing in face-to-face situation. Every one of those. I can remember trying to navigate to negotiate to get a window, get a desk near a window. That was a big deal. And then the smell, the tuna. If the biggest smell complaint was the burned popcorn.
I thought you were going to go like a certain type of perfume or cologne or something. I could see
No,
that.
we would get so many emails about people burning popcorn in the break room. And then the break room, I think it was somehow hooked into the HVAC, so it would spread really quick. So it'd be like, y'all, if you're gonna put popcorn, it was just one of those. Do we really need another all staff? And it would be an emergency one, like exclamation point, exclamation point. So one of the things I really enjoy is choice of furniture. I find it much more comfortable to sit. I sit on one of those big exercise balls. It just fit ergonomically. It fits my body well. I have a desk that I can adjust to standing or sitting. So those types of choices, to be able to have those, I am quite grateful for that. Now, I know everyone doesn't have that set up. If you don't have a large space, it could be smaller space that you configure, but all of these still apply. What can you do to make sure your ergonomics are the best they can be, that you've got, if it's access to natural light or bringing in some type of lights, and goodness knows, yes, you can control the smells.
All right, so I think that wraps us up here on part two with some of the cases for remote. And next we will go into another this or that, seat time or performance.